Oh, thank you, everybody. Welcome back to my little digital slice of the grand land of Olean. If you sat through that, you'll sit through anything. So, as I promised in my post yesterday, because we missed Saturday, we're actually going to do two chapters today. I normally take Sunday off, but because Saturday ended up being my day off, we're going to do two chapters for you today, just to help you out. So this might be a little bit of a longer video. Before we really get into it, let's see how long these chapters actually are. Let's see, there's a pretty good chunk of time that we're going to be putting into this. So let's get started with chapter 18. We did chapter 17, Silent Acts, on Friday, dealing with spectators. Now I don't really get a whole lot of that here. Hopefully at some point we'll get some people following along and watching our premieres, but for now, let's see what it says. Singers, dancers, musicians, and most comedians can run through complete acts in an empty room and then do exactly the same performances in front of a packed house. We can't. Most magicians and all mentalists interact with members of the audience. They become parts of our show, often important parts, and that's why we need to conscientiously consider the ways in which we treat them or mistreat them. One time, I visited the new shuttered but once enjoyable Caesar's Magical Empire in Las Vegas, now shuttered. The magician working the close up room was a name known to all who regularly read the magic magazines. Not much about that show remains in my memory, but I do clearly recall this. For his entire set, he had two spectators with him at the table, and he never asked their names! Exclamation point. We started off early with that. They were props, no more important to him than any card, coin, or sponge ball he used that night. To me, it felt as though he had insulted these two civilians who were nice enough to risk embarrassment by accepting his request to sit next to him. Don't forget, volunteers have no idea what the professional entertainer has in store for them. They are doing you a favor, a big favor, by offering themselves up for what? They don't know. This performer not only failed to ask their names, he never thanked them for being part of his show, never acknowledged their presence in any sincere way. That attitude muted, I'm certain, the audience's reaction to him. Unless you set something up prior to the show, your volunteers have no idea that they will be in front of an audience. Those people are your guests. Treat them as guests, never as props to be manhandled. When you meet a person socially, you extend your hand with a smile and say, or imply with your body language, I'm pleased to meet you. On stage, no one is there to introduce you to your participants, so you must ask for their names. Not to do so sends a signal to more socially conscious in the audience that either you don't care about your guests, you consider yourself more important than them, or your mama never taught you basic social necessities. In any of these cases, you lose. If possible, let the volunteer get the laughs. Laughter is laughter, regardless of its source, and all laughter is a desired reaction. Plus, you look even better by allowing the rookies to share the spotlight with you. Finally, and I'm writing this again because I've seen pros do it too often, never put down your audience, especially if it's because you are annoyed about something. Trust me, your hostility, no matter how it may be Trust me, your hostility, no matter how it may be couched in humor, brings you down a notch. The only exception would be if you are absolutely certain it will get a big laugh. Even then, know that you are playing with fire. Similarly, avoid the temptation to put down any audience member, no matter what they've done, whether they are on stage with you and fooling around or still seated in the audience. If you're playful and you are sure it will be taken as a lighthearted moment, go for it. But tread lightly, and as it says on bottles of hot sauce, use sparingly. The audience will judge you by the way you treat their colleagues, even if they are colleagues only in the sense of being fellow audience members. Asking for volunteers. When I was a young teenager, I read a book on doing magic for children. The author, I believe, was Bert Easley. One piece of simple advice from that book stayed with me forever. Advice that too many performers seem to have missed. Never announce, I need a volunteer. Say that at a kid's show, up to and including college kids, and you'll be swamped with volunteers. But at least the 18-year-olds won't run up at once and tug on your pants. When performing for adults, one of two things happens if you declare need a volunteer. No one volunteers, which leads to an awkward moment as everyone avoids eye contact with you, hoping you'll choose some other unlucky soul. Or you do get some hands raised and you realize too late that those people are the ones you least want sharing the stage with you. When you announce that you need someone to join you on the stage, the kind folks staring up at you have no idea what is about to happen. And frankly, at some shows, I wonder why would any sane adult offer themselves up for what appears to be certain humiliation? When doing magic or mentalism, it's vitally important that you choose the volunteers. This does not apply to hypnosis shows where, for ethical and perhaps legal reasons, it's imperative that everyone knows the volunteers came up of their own volition. You want to control every moment. If you ask for a volunteer and no hands go up, the audience at that moment controls you! Exclamation point. If possible, scan your audience prior to the start of your show. Within even just a few minute or two, you should be able to get an idea about who you might want on stage and who you'd be wise to avoid. Be wary of the various methods of randomly choosing volunteers. Hello, mic check. Be wary of the various methods of randomly choosing volunteers, such as tossing a paper ball into the audience. That's excellent for those occasions when you simply want a piece of information, which all would agree is impossible for you to know beforehand. For example, please call out a number between 1 and 50, but it's a poor idea for selecting volunteers to join you on stage. Again, it places control out of your hands, and you might quickly find yourself regretting the capriciousness of the toss. An exception to the above advice is if you are Darren Brown or any other person who is standing in front of people who paid substantial money to attend. They are primed and excited to be there, and so there is much less risk in the random choice of spectator. Once you've made your request for a spectator to join you, do not accede to any request that you pick something else. If you do cave in, the next person will say the same thing, and the next. Instead, agree your chosen spectator that she is perfect for what is about to take place. Then say something along the lines of, "I guarantee you'll feel comfortable and you'll have a great time!" Exclamation point. Come on up. It'll be fun! Exclamation point. That said, common sense has to reign. There may be legitimate reasons why a person can't or won't come up, and you have to assess the situation quickly. Be adamant, up to a point. Never make any person feel uncomfortable. The skill of choosing the right person develops over time. In general, the person who desperately wants to join you on stage is the last person you want. Please and thank you. Please say please when asking that something to be done, and thank you at its completion. Thank you. If only it were that simple. The fact is, too many performers forget common courtesy during a performance. They order this woman to stand here with your arm out, and that man to hold this higher, higher! Exclamation point. The audience measures you by the way you treat their comrades. So be mindful of your manners and respectful at all times. That is, unless your name is the amazing Jonathan, in which case you can do pretty much anything, pretty much whatever you want, whatever you please. A lot of words there. Yeah. Clear directions. People's minds wander throughout the show, even when they are on stage as participants. Actually, especially when they are on stage, they are nervous and easily distracted. When giving instructions to your volunteers, look right at them. If you are not establishing eye contact with each person on stage, rest assured that the verbal message you are sending is not being received. Be clear, be precise, be direct, and to the point. If the success of your next effect depends on the volunteer carrying through on your instructions, repeat the instructions in a slightly different way. The most important advice I can give you about this subject is look for or ask for nods of comprehension. Performers who ignore this step will see their trick get screwed up from time to time. Guaranteed. When dealing with a group on stage, always say something to the effect of, is something clear about that? Is everyone clear about that? Do not proceed until you receive clear and unambiguous affirmation responses from everybody. Affirmative. Wow. Talking to spectators. From a stagecraft point of view, when you have spectators on stage with you, you cannot talk to them face to face, the way you would in a social setting. You must converse while considering the needs of the larger target of your words, the audience as a whole. That's why you must angle both yourself and the volunteers so that while she can plainly see and understand you, the audience does not feel left out. Proper positioning. You can see that you have you and the spectator, and then the audience is out here, and you can kind of see that you're at a little bit of an angle so that you can still conversate with your spectator, but still have the audience as a whole. Never either of these positions. So it's showing here that you don't ever want to be side to side, and you don't ever want to be front to back. So, like, if your volunteers in the front, here are them, and then here's this. You don't want that. You want one on one side, one on the other, so that they can clearly see at an angle that you're now a part of the conversation. Kind of like what you would do if you had multiple people in a group talking in a circle. You want to position them in a way that everybody feels included. Listening. Magicians and mentalists need to develop good listening skills when dealing with non-performers on stage. Hey, what's your name? Neil Armstrong. Glad to meet you, Neil. Where are you from? Well, I'm based in Houston. Fantastic. What do you do there? I'm a retired astronaut. Great. Now would you please verify that these cards are thoroughly mixed? Far-fetched? I have seen something close to this take place, and I know it happens frequently because performers A are nervous, B are focused on the mechanics of the trick, and C have never developed a listening attitude. Listen to your guest on stage. You will look foolish if it becomes clear to the audience that you ask questions and don't really hear the responses. Listen and react. Like I said, listen and react. Where were you listening to me? Danny Franz, Emmy-winning star of NYPD Blue, told TV Guide why he admired Jackie Gleason. I remember seeing the movie Gigit on television, where he played a mute. He just showed so much expression in his face. I think that's when I learned the importance of listening by watching that performance. Most actors want to talk all the time. I learned you don't have to talk, but you always have to listen. I realized he wasn't saying anything, but he was breaking my heart. Your reaction to whatever is said or done guides the audience's reaction. An extreme example, when something funny happens on stage, Criskin, in my opinion, wildly overreacts by erupting into a spasm of limb-flailing laughter. But nonetheless, his reaction increases the laughter in the audience. That type of reaction will be more helpful to your success than if you simply hear words and proceed. The words a spectator says must register with you, and we in your audience must know that they did. Don't let it appear that you are a machine programmed to say the same words regardless of the context. React when appropriate. In 2018, mentalist and AGT finalist Oz Perlman invited me to one of his public shows. Afterward, I told him that he was the most present performer I'd seen in years, meaning he was there at the show, not as most performers are, stuck inside his own script. He continually reacted and responded in real time to what was being said and what was happening around him. Even better, he expertly recalled moments from earlier in the show to build up later effects. More performers should strive to develop that skill. Callbacks are amazing and they're impressive, especially in the course of a conversation. Just try to when the next time you're having a conversation in a long form, try to slowly interject, not always as jokes, but callbacks to something that happened previously in the conversation as a reminder that you are still following along with what is being said. And if it is your turn to talk, don't try to talk over somebody. But if you're in the if it's your turn to say something and you want to be funny, depending on your conversation, you can always make a reference to something that had already happened in the conversation or earlier that day if you're coworkers or anything like that. So just practice throughout the day for recall and through your conversations and through your events, and then try to make them, if you want it to be comedic, try to make it comedic. If you want it to be stoic, try to make it stoic, but work on your recall, and you're basically saving stuff for later so that you can use it in the wild in a way that doesn't seem unnatural. Touching. Politeness on stage, and you're on stage anytime you're in front of an audience of any size, before, during, and after your show. Extend beyond the basic please and thank you boundaries. The new consciousness of male female relationships and personal space requires more sensitivity than was exhibited by many of our predecessors. Touch another person only when absolutely necessary and restrict those touches to the universally accepted safe zones. When in doubt, stay away or ask for consent clearly. Hashtag me too and you too. The world shifted in 2017 when Harvey Weinstein harassment accusations hit the fan. The dam broke globally and everyone's consciousness were raised. Victims, we now know, are sadly everywhere, meaning you cannot do all the same jokes and bits of business that you may have done or have seen done for years. For both women and men, antennae are up. So-called microaggressions, innocent to some people, truly offend others, and among the offended might be the decision makers. Today, you need to be cognizant of who you touch and where you touch, and how it's done, who you look at and where you look, and how it's done, and certainly what you say. As I write these words in 2019, it's clear that we are on the cusp of change. Things will be different in 5, 10, 20 years. None of us can predict the changes, but they are coming. The kids in middle school today will be the college audiences of the near future, and they will possess a mindset, a sensitivity that we cannot yet fully grasp. It behooves the forward-thinking performer to prepare now, not later, when it might be too late. This all applies to any combination of sexes. It's equally wrong for a female musician to do or say inappropriate things. One is the loneliest number. Never leave a spectator alone on stage. This sometimes happens when the performer needs to go into the audience, but it can lead to disaster. They are comfortable in the situation, so they aren't comfortable in the situation, so they stand there awkwardly, or they mug for the audience, or worse. And I've seen this happen. They decide to leave the stage! Exclamation point. If for some reason you do need to break this rule, you must give clear instructions. Wait right here for a moment. Please don't move. I'll be right back. And then make sure you do come back quickly. Dismissing spectators. Always verbally thank your assistants. Always. Even when they screwed up, we've always discussed fault, and always with a smile. In almost all situations, you should shake the hand of anyone who's assisted you on stage. To dismiss them without doing so will be noticed by the audience and not in a good way. Granted, there may be times when to do so breaks the rhythm of the moment, but those times will likely be rare. You should always ask the audience to acknowledge volunteer assistance. Again, assuming that it's fit for the pacing of the routine, but avoid a grandiose, come on folks, let's hear it for them! Exclamation point. If your volunteers haven't done all that much. Save your big request for audience applause if and when a volunteer truly helps the show reach a high point. Just as you may have helped people walk up on the stage, when appropriate, assist them as they make their way back, especially when there are steep steps down. Prepare for problems. Before you step out onto the stage, be sure to consider all the possible problems you might encounter when dealing with spectators. Difficult access to the stage. The audience is too old or too young. You need to borrow something, a bill, coin, ring, handkerchief, but no one has to. But no one has it. They don't understand you, due either to hearing or language problems. They screw you up intentionally or otherwise. Have alternate strategies immediately ready for all of these situations. Fantastic. So we're on chapter 19 before the show. We're going to end the video here, and then we will immediately jump right back into it for you. So stay tuned for chapter 19 before the show. Wowzers. A little bit of a break. It's good times. Are we going to stop? I don't know. What is happening? Don't forget to subscribe, of course, and watch the video that's just for you. Yep, it's just for you. See you soon.